Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler. This is a special edition. I have with me a special guest. We are going to talk about the top 10 reasons why you should always purchase travel insurance if you're planning on travel, especially internationally. We have asked our special friend Stephanie Wessel to join us. Stephanie's with TravelX Insurance. Stephanie, thank you for joining us today. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It's my pleasure to be here, Steve, and thank you so much for the invitation. I am a regional sales manager with TravelX Insurance, and I've been with TravelX for 14 years
14
now.
years, yeah.
Yep. So the relationship with executive travel precedes me, but it's always a pleasure to be here and to answer the questions
thanks
that
for
you
coming
have.
down and sitting here in person. You know, you always have these Zoom meetings, but we get to see each
That's
other
right.
in person.
That's right.
We're going to go through my top 10 reasons, Stephanie, of why you should invest in travel insurance if you're going to travel, and especially if you go internationally. I see that. It's almost mandatory in my book, not by the law, but in my book. So here we go. Here's the top 10 reasons why you should have travel insurance. Here we go. Trip cancellation coverage. So for example, Stephanie, if something unforeseen happens, such as an illness, an injury, a natural disaster, travel insurance can help reimburse you for those non-refundable expenses. And these are unforeseen. So you don't have a pre-existing condition. This is something that happens that you can't think of. Now, especially with tours internationally, we're making reservations and deposits 6 and 9 months in advance. You can't tell what's going to happen down 6 or 9 months.
That's right.
So that's got to be one of the top reasons.
One of the top reasons, and it's really important to have a comprehensive plan that covers the reasons that you care about. So one thing that my company does is always gives you access to that full policy detail so that the potential client can see, hey, is my concern covered or not? Yep.
You know what I like about your company? You have this easy to call phone number. Because I'm a guy, I don't read anything. I don't read insurance policies or anything. I want to call and say, does this cover this? And it's neat that your team can be there. And I know you've helped us a lot of times.
Yes.
You say, yep, that's covered, or no, that's on the edge and may not cover it. So you guys always shoot straight, and it's always nice to talk to professionals. So that's number one. Number two, emergency medical expenses. And that is a big, big issue when you're on the road, and accidents, hospital stays, doctor visits, emergency transportation. You know, who's going to pay for that ambulance? Who's going to pay when you get to go to the emergency room? Most people don't realize internationally, your health insurance domestically doesn't cover you when you're in Italy, right? So
Very
you got to
true.
have this.
Very true. There are some Medicare supplements that cover, so you can always check with your policy.
Okay.
But one thing that's great about TravelX is our coverage is primary with no deductibles. So we do take responsibility from that first expenditure if it's a sickness or injury during the trip.
Okay.
And
So you don't have to worry about fighting who's going to pay for it. You guys are number one.
you don't have to
on the
file a
list.
claim first with your supplement, with Medicare, and then supplement company, and then come to us.
Right.
You can come to us first.
Well, and medical coverage. I've heard horror stories of people being down in the tropical island somewhere, and you know they have a medical condition and they're taken to the hospital on the back of a garbage truck or something. You know, it's almost comical, some of the things that I hear, some of the stories that go around. But the bottom line is, if you're going to go on a vacation and spend $10,000, protect it, because you don't know what's going to happen, and travel insurance is one of the ways you protect your investment. Now let's talk about number 3 on the list.
Okay.
I have it down as trip interruption coverage. If your trip is interrupted due to a covered reason, family emergency, severe weather, travel insurance can reimburse you for the unused portion of your trip. I had that happen to me. We were in Greece on a cruise, my wife and I, many decades ago, and her grandmother passed away, and she was to sing at her funeral, part of her grandmother's stipulation. And we just automatically got on a flight, came back, and the travel insurance covered not only to get home, but they paid for all the unused portion of the trip. That was so cool. I just said, I have no worries. I'm going to deal with this when I get home after the funeral. And it was so easy. It was easy peasy.
Yes, it's really important that you do know what the terms of the policy are, but family member, just like you described, I am in my 50s, but I have a living grandmother and parents, and then that younger generation, my children and grandchildren, and I would cancel or interrupt my trip for an emergency for any of those relationships. So it's really important that you have the coverage in place early on, especially if you're concerned about hospitalization. One of those relationships might have a pre-existing condition. So Beth and team do offer the coverage right away at first deposit so that you have the option to protect even against those pre-existing conditions.
So with that, I have on the next list of my top 10 is lost or delayed baggage. So here you've got coverage for when it's lost, stolen, or delayed, helping to reimburse us. Now I got another story. You're going to get tired of my stories, okay?
No, your stories are great.
I'm going to Italy. I fly to Italy. I've got my bags, and it's on Alitalia years ago. And Alitalia is famous for lost luggage. Okay, I should have known that from the day one. So I get into Nice on my connecting flight through Rome. Guess what doesn't show up? My luggage. Okay? So with that, I hunt, and they say, well, we found it. You're in Nice. It's in Rome. And by the time you get off your ship, we're going to be back in Rome. So you're going to basically go a week without your luggage. So I'm walking around Nice looking for clothes. Now look at my size. Do you think there's anybody in France that's my size? There is nobody. So I finally found one store that had green and orange striped shorts. And I had to wear those the whole week. I mean, people were laughing. They were pointing at me walking down the sidewalk in France saying, look at that. So that's my story about lost luggage.
Well, that baggage delay coverage kicks in with Travelex after you've been without your bags for at least 12 hours.
12 hours.
So it's always important to keep track of that that incident report from the airline, that you tried to get your bag, that it's lost. So you got to keep your documentation for a claim. And then what we're trying to reimburse is that outfit, is that type of item that you just can't get
You're not
along
going to get a
with
brand new suit out of the deal. You're going to get
it's going to be limited to essentials. So definitely always check your policy, because what I'm talking about is what's in place today. So
basically, you also have to keep your receipts. Like I had to turn in my receipt for those
green and orange shorts. That's right.
And they were checkered too. Okay, number 5 on this week's list of top 10 reasons why you should get travel insurance reads emergency, evacuation, and
repatriation. So that's bringing you back if you expire on your trip, Steve. So we do
I hope I
have
never
situations
test that one
where that
out,
happens. You know, you never want to talk about that, but it's an exposure.
But also evacuation could be they can't treat you and you need to get to a facility that can treat you, right?
Correct. So we have a 24/7 travel assistance service, which I know you're going to talk about later.
Right.
But they could coordinate care if you are in a facility that cannot handle your condition and you need to be moved medically. So we have an ER doctor team that can consult with the doctors on the ground to coordinate that transfer from where you are to the more appropriate place or your home city, whichever is first and whichever is needed.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and let's hope that never has to be done, but it's nice to have that safety valve right there.
That's right.
You know, I jumped over one of my next items that I was going to say after lost luggage, and that's travel delay reimbursement. Because today, ladies and gentlemen, you know, about 8 out of 10 flights will be on time. The other 2 or 3 won't be on time. Sometimes you'll miss a connection. Sometimes there'll be a weather incident that causes you to have to stay an extra day or 2. Sometimes even a strike, like today, Lufthansa is striking on flights that are leaving Munich and Frankfurt. So how would you know when you bought this ticket 3 months ago?
Right.
You know? So all those things, this coverage comes in handy. It's not a big thing, but it helps you defray some of those costs.
There's some exposure for extra expenses. All of those coverages are laid out in the plan where we would pay out, and if it's not there, we won't.
Yeah.
So it's really important to understand the timeframes and the reasons
Right.
that are eligible. And
Usually-
that's the second category, trip interruption, trip delay, misconnection after cancellation,
Right.
as far as our claims. And again, on those trip delays, keeping receipts of the extra expenses for a hotel or meals
Right.
during that time is really important for the claim process.
You bet. The next on our top 10 list of why you should invest in travel insurance if you're going to make an investment to travel reads coverage for pre-existing medical conditions. So basically, when you in the life, things happen, right? And so as you make a down payment and you've got a pre-existing condition, some kind of disease or something, your coverage will, if they do it within so many days of making the deposit, the original deposit, you cover for that.
Yep, we waive the pre-existing exclusion. It is really important that the client, when they buy the insurance, is able to take the trip that they're depositing on.
Right.
If they don't already have something looming from a health standpoint
Right.
that they know about, because we're covering for
And
unforeseen.
now, how many days do you have after the deposit? How much?
15 days from
15
that first
days.
deposit date.
Okay.
And
so-
I would say it's really important to go ahead and purchase it. When you're offered it, you do have a review period.
Right.
So let's say you don't have time to read the policy or call us to ask your questions. We will refund the money within a 15-day review period.
Okay.
As if it doesn't meet their needs.
See, I didn't know that, so
Yeah.
that's good to know. See, I'm learning about the top 10 reasons you should have travel insurance.
Yep.
So it's great to have you
Yep.
here today helping us with this. We're going on with the top 10 reasons. We're down to, which I think is the best part, 24/7 service. I mean, it's nice to have a company that knows that it's 7 hours difference in Italy, right?
Right.
and so when it's 5 o'clock here at night, it's 5 plus 7 you're sitting at, right? You're sitting at 12 midnight in Italy. So you can get a hold of the insurance company, always have that number, and to be able to do that and get
Yep, we'll
questions,
accept those
answers.
collect calls from
Sure.
international. We also have toll free for
You bet.
U.S. and Canada.
You bet. So another thing is, a lot since COVID, people wanted to get out, explore, be very active. The next item we have listed down here is for those enthusiasts for adventure sports and activities. You know, people want to ski and scuba and do all the activities of life. Now, there's limitations, like skydiving and stuff like that, I'm sure, but it covers for if you sprain your ankle while you're out doing bicycle riding or
Bicycle
something like
riding,
that.
yes. We do have an adventure sports upgrade for those things like skydiving, parasailing, hot air balloon rides, those things that are riskier to
Right.
the underwriter, things
Right.
like climbing a mountain with equipment. And to cover for those outside of the base plan items, you can just add an easy upgrade anytime before
Cool.
departure.
So you can get the coverage. It
You can
just
get the
has
coverage.
a little bit more premium to it. And you know, the thing that I always like about this is basically what you pay for travel insurance is just a small piece of your total. It's peace of mind. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I tell people we want to make it so you don't worry about anything. Well, you do that by covering your investment that you have, and travel insurance does that. So we've got all these 10 reasons that we went through today just to share with you how all the coverage, what it does and what it doesn't do. Hopefully we've shared a little bit about that too. But if you're thinking of traveling, think about the tickets you buy are probably non-refundable. The tours that you buy are non-refundable. So how do you get that investment back if something bad that's covered by insurance? You have that coverage and you have peace of mind. And in today's world, that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, that peace of mind is very important. And please always consider buying that product right away. With that first deposit, you can get more bang for your buck then. If you're waiting till later, ask us questions if
You
you
bet.
have them. Always read your policy,
You bet.
because any claims are dependent on the
Yeah,
language.
and we're
to
going to
be-
help you along.
be
I mean,
paid.
if if people are like me, I don't read anything, and I don't think many people read. But when you got Beth at the end of the phone, okay, she can say, I don't know, but I'll find out, right? And that's why we wanted to bring this to you today. This is Executive Travel. I'm being joined today by Stephanie Wessels, who's with TravelX Insurance, and we've been working together how many years? A long, long time?
I've been there almost 14. So
14, yeah.
yes, we've been.
And they're really
partners
just
for a long
a
time.
tremendous company. We'd like to thank you for joining us, and would like to encourage you at any time, call 402-435-8888. I hope you'll consider protecting that investment and having peace of mind with insurance for your travel.